Boom! What's up, y'all? Welcome to the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What's good? What's good? Let's see. I'm gonna try to move quick. I say this every week, but I'm gonna try to move quicker this week. Spook Realm 4Q, you are first as usual. Spook Realm says assault that like button, subscribe, and buy the book. My brother's name is Kenny, the greatest hip hop story ever told. Yes, the link is in the description below. Please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Um, Thank you so much, my brother. JT, what up? Gregory Nettis, what up? Um, Spookram says, true story. Wifey was saying something to me and I just looked at her without a response. She looked back at her phone, took a breath and said, anyway, what's good anyway? Where are you? Henry Cedillo, what's up? Um, let's see. Uh, Corey Flood, what's up? Corey Flood says, tonight on the Kenny Parker Show, special guest will be Greg Nice, and we will discuss Kanye explosive interview. Um, Shout out to Greg Nice, who, by the way, I asked to be a guest on this show a little while back, and he agreed. Just got to get the scheduling right. That's my dude. He has a very interesting story pertaining to BDP that I wanted him to tell on this channel. So hopefully I can get him on here to talk about that, and of course, nice and smooth. Terrence Hill, what up? Shout out to the Rewind crew who's gonna check this out later on. Abel Valdez, what up? Let me see if I can move quicker. John Walker, Haitian Space Program. We're still waiting on that origin story, like a Marvel comic. The origin of Haitian Space Program. This is a question that I always like answering. What up, Kenny? I'll ask this: Low End Theory or Midnight Marauders? Which one is illa? And we're talking about A Tribe Called Quest. And I've mentioned on this channel numerous times that Native Tongue is my favorite collective. And both of those albums were absolute masterpieces. However, I am going to go with the Low End Theory because that was the album that really put A Tribe Called Quest on the next level. People's Instinctive Travels, another masterpiece, really put, to me, that put Q-Tip on a level. But then Low End Theory gave us the blend that really became the classic blend, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame blend, which was Q-Tip and Fife on the mic, Ali Shaheed on the wheels. Shout out to Jerobi as well. But that blend of Q-Tip and Fife was the blend that really took them to the next level. I thought Fife really came into his own on that album. That album also introduced really to America Leaders of the New School. Now, Leaders of the New School was out. PTA was a big song. I think it was bigger in like the Northeast region, New York area. But Scenario, one of the greatest posse cuts ever, really put Leaders and Busta on a national stage. And the sound of that album really changed a lot of things too. I think Midnight Marauders, to me, was just a continuation of the greatness. So I loved Midnight Marauders. I got a chance to hear like 4 or 5 songs before it came out. I was up at Jive. Now maybe not 4, maybe like 3. And I do remember hearing Relax Yourself. That's not the name of the record. Relax Yourself. I got to hear that on a cassette up at Jive. And I remember getting a award tour in the mail. And I remember I played that record 30 times when I first got it. I could not believe how dope that record was, and I couldn't believe how dope the production was. I played it like 10 times, and then I flipped it over and played the instrumental like 20 times. I couldn't believe the changes. What a great record, song. But I say all that to say I'm going Low End Theory as the Tribe quintessential album and the second best Native Tongue album behind 3 Feet High and Rising. Long-winded answer. Earl Green, what up? John Walker says 86 and counting. Yes, this is our 86th show straight. We on a roll, y'all. Let's see how long we can keep this going. MMA Crossfire, salute. April 7th artwork. Corey Flex says Beast Life or Love Movement. I'm gonna go Love Movement. Only because it had So You Caught My Heart for the Evening. Help me find my way. Because of that song, I'm gonna pick Love Movement. And I was at that very last Tribe show when Tribe broke up. They did a show at Tramps, and they announced that they were breaking up during the Love Movement. I was at that show. Haitian Spacepoker says Midnight Marauders is illa. I mean, it's apples and oranges. I mean, you can pick. I just think Low End Theory was the peak. Because then we were ready for Midnight Marauders. See, plus Low End Theory was the sophomore jinx that was supposed to happen. That happens to a lot of artists. And instead of the sophomore jinx, they just went to another level. And then they went to another level and stayed at that level with Midnight Marauders. But if some people think it's illa, you could say that too. I wouldn't be mad at that. Joey Joe says, rest in power to another rapper, Brooklyn's Gemini Gift, the Gifted One. Yeah, we spoke about that on Friday. I did a quick Friday live. For those of you that missed it, I jumped on Friday. I'm going to do that from time to time. I had nothing to do on a Friday night. Wanted to see who was out and about. So I jumped on Friday night and we talked about Gemini, the Gifted One. Another week, another hip hop family member gone. JT says, at Corey Flood, other than Blondie, I'd say it was the Beastie Boys. I saw somebody said the first white rapper was Blondie. My thing is, was she a rapper? I don't consider her a rapper. I consider her a singer who rapped on a song. If y'all catch the distinction. I don't think Deborah Harry was a rapper. I think she got caught up in the flow. She was hanging out with Fab Five Freddy and Flash and got caught up and made a record and was rapping and singing on that record. And it became a #1 worldwide hit. But she never rapped after that. But she's the first white person to rap on a record, I would say. Although, Tina Marie was after her, a little bit after her. Dear Marasuti, what up? Spook Realm says Phife Dawg had an unhealthy dislike for Vanilla Ice. A lot of people did. Did you ever see the Arsenio interview with Vanilla Ice? The one where Flavor Flav came on there with Vanilla Ice? That was ugly. H. Bippy was good. MK Ultra, what up? Lethal 5 Flow. Terrell McMillan, KP, my man, what's up? DJ Platform 204. I'm trying to move quick. Rosandali Artistry says, Kenny, what's up? Rosandali. The Sticky Label says, wow, making my first live. Welcome to the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We have a new member to the team. We've been doing this for like 2 years, but thank you for catching a live. Maybe you've been part of the Rewind crew. But thank you for checking in. Derek Mallory, live with Deacon Strange. What up? I'm seeing a bunch of names. I'm trying to move quicker this week. Sweet Goldilocks, what up? DJ Platform 204 says, hey Kenny, when are you gonna have Big Les on the show? Great question. When I ask her, I guess, maybe. She's my biggest celebrity crush, so she is so damn fine for real. Big Les is mad cool. I consider her a friend. We follow each other on Instagram. For those of you that don't check out my Instagram, DJ Kenny Parker, I have not been on Instagram in like a year, but I check it from time to time. I'm gonna reach out to Big Les and ask her, see what she says. She has a crazy story. I don't recognize this name. Dana J60, Missy Kennedy. I don't recognize that name, but what's up? Randy Savage, what up? Oh, Terrence Hill says, I saw the Epic Fail episode about the accident. For those of you that didn't get a chance to check out, I dropped an Epic Fail just yesterday about a accident that BDP had on the road with a couple of little, thank goodness everybody's okay, but with a couple of little chuckles in there. Please check that out if you didn't get a chance. I just dropped it yesterday. Epic Fail. I do believe it's number 21 or 22. Marvin Keller, what up? Randy Savage says Low End Theory. Sticky Label says Midnight Marauders. Terrence Hill says hit the like button, y'all. Please do. Let's see. I see people going back and forth debating on whether this is a very interesting. I never really brought this up, but this was true. The Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society says, KRS said in an interview that his album, I Got Next, was supposed to be called Just to Prove a Point to show that he could still sell records. That is true. I never mentioned that because that's something that I think KRS should mention on his own, but you said that he mentioned it in an interview. When we were working, I got an epic fail about I Got Next. I think I want to do that next. I'm going to tell my I Got Next story. Word. Actually, should step into a world story. When we were working on that album, which I believe was in 1990, the album came out in 97, so we started working on it in 96. And the working title was Just to Prove a Point. And it was saying that I think KRS dropped Sex and Violence, which was the first Boogie Down Productions album that didn't go gold. We've talked about that many times on this channel. I did a whole Sex and Violence breakdown on this channel. If you guys didn't get a chance to check it out, please check it out. He dropped Sex and Violence in 92. Then he dropped the KRS-One self-titled, then he dropped Return of the Boom Bap in 93, which ironically, as dope as that album was, and that was like a revival for KRS-One, that album sold about the same amount of copies as Sex and Violence. Then in 95, he dropped I Got Next, self-titled LP, with the song MCs Act Like They Don't Know, which was one of Chris's biggest songs. And those 3 albums all basically sold the same. So Chris was just in cruise control, I guess, with sales, but below his Boogie Down Productions heyday. So I believe at around that time there was also like the Bad Boy era had taken off, and a lot of artists were selling big records. And I think he was getting pressure from Jive, like, we need a commercial single, or we need you to try to be more mainstream, I think. And saying that to KRS-One is like a slap in the face. But he said, if I wanted to make those kind of records, I could. And that was really how, one of the reasons why Step Into a World came about. But before I get deep into that song, I'm gonna do a whole breakdown. I'm gonna do an epic fails on that so y'all can really understand the background to that song. But long story short, when Step Into a World was made, that song was done in like July of '96. Keep in mind, the album didn't come out till like March or April of '97. That song was done in like '96. Everybody knew that was gonna be a hit. Once we heard it, once he turned it into Jive, Jive was at that point was like, you could do whatever you want to do at this point. We got the song that we needed. Everyone knew that song was gonna go. That was just one of those songs. And when the record company is behind you, it's amazing what you can do when the record company is behind you. So they were behind that song and that project. Now, I don't know why he changed it from Just to Prove a Point to I Got Next, which is more of a basketball term, I Got Next. But at some point, the album went from Just to Prove a Point. Maybe he already proved the point to Jive when he turned in Step Into a World, and then he was off to doing whatever he was originally gonna do. So, long story short, Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society, that is absolutely true. I remember that clearly. And then he says, ironically, his album I Got Next went gold and was his last album on Jive. Yeah, just to prove a point, and he proved the point. I Got Next came in at number 3 in the country. I forgot the two. I gotta go look up the 2 albums that beat out I Got Next. It was like 2 pop albums, I think, but that album was his biggest chart debut, and it was led by his biggest commercial record, I Got Next. So he proved the point that he could sell the records. And then things looked like they were going to be good on Jive, and then it just went downhill. And one day when Chris comes on here, I'd like for him to explain. I know what happened, but it'd probably be better off for him to talk about it. But that's a great point that you brought up. Let's see. GF Worrell says too much Fife. What? Somebody said too much Fife? I didn't see that comment, but like I say on this channel, we respect all opinions on this channel. Everyone has their own opinion. Music is subjective. Even if we don't agree, we accept all opinions. I would love to hear, have you elaborate on that. But in my opinion, Fife is the reason why A Tribe Called Quest went to the level that they went to. One of the reasons. Too much Fife, that was the blend, man. I absolutely disagree with that statement, but Rap Salute said Low End Theory did change the sound of hip hop. After that, everybody started their songs with a double bass and brought the drums on the snare. Yep. Everybody started dropping out the music and bringing it back on the snare. Pap. That's from the Low End Theory, really. Now somebody's gonna say so-and-so did it first. But after Q-Tip did it on that album, that's when everybody started doing it. And by the way, I saw Dr. Dre. I saw an interview with Dr. Dre said when he first started to work on The Chronic, he was listening to Low End Theory to get inspiration on the sound that he was looking for at that time. That album was very influential and incredible, but so is Midnight Marauders. Rapsalute says, having said that, I think Midnight Marauders is a better album overall. It could be. Um, I the way Low End Theory impacted me, Midnight Marauders was just more greatness. But nobody was ready for Low End Theory. You didn't know that was coming. Nobody knew that was coming. There's no way you could tell me that after People's Instinctive Travels, which was great, that you saw Low End Theory coming. The sound, the flow, everything was different. Ice Cold Beverage says De La Soul is dead versus Balloon Mind State. I'm going De La Soul is dead. I told the story on this channel about me and Chris Lighty riding around listening to De La Soul is Dead on a promo cassette before it came out. And I loved it so much and got on his nerves that he just gave me the cassette. Rest in peace to the great Chris Lighty. Floetry, what up? Says, I listened to all 3 Tribe albums in a row at work, at least work last week. Dope, yeah. That's really go listen to the whole thing. Go listen to People's Instinctive, Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders as one thing. You can understand how unbelievable it was. Jason Wall says Midnight Marauders is a little too polished for me, honestly. I don't know. I could. Low End Theory had more bass lines, I would imagine. I could hear that argument, although it was, oh man, unbelievable. Rapsalute says beats, rhymes, and life and the love movement were both poor, in my opinion. I wouldn't say they were poor. I mean, you could say poor. I wouldn't call them poor. I would just say that the standard that was set on that first 3-album run, which could be the best 3-album run ever, Run DMC, PE, but and that's when Jay Dilla came along. If you notice, it wasn't solely Q-Tip. At that point, it became Q-Tip and Jay Dilla, and the sound changed. I don't know. James Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Talk about your production on Sneak Attack. Dope. I'm gonna do a breakdown on Sneak Attack, my production on Sneak Attack. I was just listening to that this week. I went back and listened. I did 4 songs on Sneak Attack. I went back and listened because somebody mentioned the song and I had forgot all about it. I'm gonna go back. I went back and listened to it, and I'm gonna talk about because I wasn't in the studio for most of the recordings. I was only in the studio for basically my songs. But I'm gonna do a breakdown on that. DJ Platform says, hey Kenny, any stories involving King Just? Did you know of him? Of course. He had that song Warrior's Drum and had the Wu-Tang spin on it. Actually, he went to the same high school that I went to in Brooklyn. Shout out Abraham Lincoln High School. And when he first came out, my high school coach was talking to me about possibly hooking up with him to do something. This is when he first came out with Warrior's Drum. But at that time, we was on tour. We were going overseas, so I didn't really have time to catch up with him. But I did meet him. I met him years later, probably in like the mid-90s. So maybe like 3 or 4 years later after Warrior's Drum, I did meet him. But my high school coach was trying to connect us together when Warrior's Drum was out. So I absolutely know of him and met him. The Sticky Label says, we was just bumping if heads only knew. That beat does something to me every time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Shout out to Heather B. That's a Heather B song. Um, Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. I really appreciate anybody liking any beat that I ever did. Um, it's so hard to get people to like stuff, man. If anybody out there, if you like one, if of all the music that I've done, if you ever like just one, thank you. Now let's see if I can get your name right. Daynell the Dawn Freeman. Daynell. Now, am I getting it right this time? Says, yo, KP, why do you think KRS and Q-Tip never did a song together? Um, well, back in the early 90s when they both were putting out a lot of stuff, people didn't collab like that. And then maybe in the later years, I don't know. I did hear a story, Chris told me that in maybe 2008, they were all in the Q-Tip and Chris was in the studio with DJ Premier and they were going to do a song, but somehow they couldn't get it together. I don't know why. Maybe they was going to go home and write and it didn't work out. Something happened that KRS, Q-Tip, and DJ Premier were in the studio at the same time talking about making a song right then and there, and it didn't happen. Chris did tell me that. Live Deacon Strange says Blondie was the group, Deborah Harry was the singer. Yes. But no, she wasn't a rapper, but she was definitely on the scene. Yeah, she was hanging with Fab Five Freddy. And I do believe he took her to the Fever in the Bronx, where she met Flash, something like that. And shout out to her for clearing Step Into a World. She cleared that song, which allowed it to come out. Patrick Wise says Debbie Harry was a rapper like the Fatback Band. Kington III was rappers. Not. Yeah, they weren't really rappers. They were singers that happened to decide to venture into that rap world for a second. That would be the same as like calling Bobby Brown a rapper. Just because he said, he did a couple of raps on that Ghostbusters song. And I think Smooth B wrote his rhymes. My name is Brown. That's what they call. Remember that? And he was rapping. It was Ghostbusters and another song that he rapped on. But that doesn't mean Bobby Brown was a rapper. He's a singer who jumped on the mic for a second. It'll be the same way if you call Curtis Blow a singer because he did Daydreaming, which, by the way, is one of my favorite songs ever. Curtis Blow, Daydreaming. In the heights of Curtis Blow being a rapper, he just went out of nowhere and just made a record, Daydreaming, which used to play on the radio a lot in New York. So is Curtis Blow a singer? He sung a song. Let's see. Let me scroll down. Benny Doyle, where you at? Because I'm falling behind. Patrick Wise says Kenny Simone was wrong. Yeah, y'all got to check out the Epic Fail. Jay Wu says, Kenny, what's your take on the new KRS-One album? I'm going to get to that. I'm going to do a whole thing on that. Charles 13X says Fife was a hip-hop saint. He really was a great guy. I did a epic fail. Now, it wasn't an epic fail. It was just a story. It was before the epic fails. I did a story about hanging out with Fife Dog at the Summer Jam, the very first Summer Jam, New York City Summer Jam. Me and Fife was chilling together. And it's a funny story. If you guys didn't get a chance to check it out, it's one of my earliest videos on this channel. I did a story about me and Fife hanging out. Fife was also in the studio for one of the Heather B sessions when we were working on her album, Taking Mine. Fife was in the studio hanging with us. Which would have been dope if we had got him on the record. I forgot, we were in D&D. I don't know why he was there, but he came to D&D and he came in our session and hung out for a while. I used to do a party in New York City back in 1990 called the Kenny Parker Show, ironically, at SOBs. BDP used to have a night at SOBs. I talked about this with Kid Capri, for those that didn't see that interview. I talked about this with Kid Capri. BDP used to have a night in 1990 called the Kenny Parker Show at the world famous SOBs, and everybody used to be there. And Jerobi and Fife used to be there all the time. Heather once told a story about having a dance battle with Jerobi and Fife at SOBs. Now, I didn't see this because I was DJing. She said she battled Jerobi. Now, I don't know if Fife was in it too, but Heather B versus Jerobi in a dance battle would have to have been one of the funniest things ever. And Heather's a pretty funny dancer too, so I would have loved to have seen that battle. Heather told me about that like right after that night. So this is 1990. This is when Bonita Applebum had Bonita Applebum wasn't even a single yet. I Left My Wallet and El Segundo was the single. And around that time, this is before or right when Bonita Applebum had just dropped. So if Fife was part of that battle, that might have been even funnier. I gotta ask Heather about her battle against them too in SOBs and see what she says. But yeah, Fife was just a great dude, always nice demeanor. That was my dude. Mark Thompson says, was Pal Joey using the SP1200? He absolutely was. He was dope on the SP1200 too. Pal Joey's a person who did Love's Gonna Get You for us, Duck Down, 13 and Good, some other songs on Sex and Violence. Let's see. Corey Flood says, Kenny, MC Shan Yawn was on Lord Jamar on Friday. He said KRS stole his style for the South Bronx. And then he said the flow from the beat by the KRS used. Shan should have said all of this in 86. Why is he talking about it? I don't know. But I do believe that KRS purposely mocked Shan in the South Bronx when he says, why don't you wise up and show all the people that you are whack? Instead of trying to take out LL, you need to take your homeboy off the crack. That was Shan's style from the bridge, and I believe KRS was purposely mocking Shan by using his style in the South Bronx. That's true. I don't know if he stole his style, but he was purposely using his style to let people know who he was talking about. Now, if he stole style on Beat Body, you should have said it. I hate people that talk decades later about stuff when they had the chance to do it right then and there. I hear so many stories about BDP and what would have happened and what should have happened, and when y'all didn't battle this person and y'all didn't say something when this person stepped up and when at the actual time when things were going down, I wish y'all people could have saw what I saw. A lot of these people didn't say anything when BDP was in the building. Not a word. What's up, Chris? How you doing, Chris? Call me. That's all they ever said. And then 30 years later, everybody got a story. Whatever. But MC Shan has always been cool with me whenever I saw him. But I just hate people that talk years later about what they would have done or what they wish they could have done. Why you ain't just do it? You could tell that's like one of my little pet peeves, right? That's one of the reasons why I started this channel, to clear up misinformation that's out there online. But I see people from time to time with all kind of stories. I wish you guys could have seen these people in real life in 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 2000, 2000. I wish you could see these people in real life like I saw them, and then hear how they talk on the internet. Please pick up the book. I talk a lot about MC Shan and what I saw in 87. The link is in the description below. James Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says, step in the arena, daily operation, hard to earn, moment of truth. My best three album run, Gangstar. I'm not mad at that. That's a 4-album run. I would have different artists 3-album runs, but I'm not mad at that. Those first 3 Run DMC albums changed all of music. PE's first 3 albums, that Ice Cube, Straight Outta Compton, America's Most Wanted, and Death Certificate. I'm gonna skip over Kill at Will. And Death Certificate, that 3-album run was crazy. I could probably think of a few others. Tribe, De La. But yeah, Gangstar just had a level of consistency that's just unmatched, man. Like, if you like one Gangstar record, you pretty much like them all. To me. And I love Gangstar, by the way. Corey Flood says, I never knew that. MC Shan was really going in on KRS, saying that they never battled and he would have destroyed Chris. But they never battled. Why? Dude made the bridges over and you didn't say anything. Why didn't you say something? You might have taken KRS-One out. We'll never know. Now, 35 years later, let's see. Soka Samuel, the Red Indian. I don't recognize that name. What up? Welcome to the channel. Says, Kenny, I read a review of I Got Next and it says something about a Joe collab. Yeah. Why wasn't it on the album? The singer Joe was on Jive Records, and I believe they paired KRS and Joe, and there was a song. I remember that song. It must have come out on something else. I remember that song. I don't know why they took it off of I Got Next. On an album, let's say an album has 12 songs, you might make 20 songs, 25, 30 songs, and then pick 12. They said Michael Jackson made 200 songs and picked 8 for Thriller. So that's probably one of them songs that got cut off the album, but I remember that song. I was not in the studio when they recorded it, but I remember that song. Let's see. Live with Deacon shares, Kenny, if you could have been a fly on the wall at any hip hop moment in history, what would it be? Oh, what a question. Why would you do that? Why? This Kool Moe Dee versus Busy Bee battle. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have been in the studio when certain songs were made to see how the vibe was. Damn, that's a great question. I'd have to really think about that because I've probably seen just about every artist that I ever wanted to see perform live, except for Tupac. I never saw Tupac live. Um, I've seen so much that I'm trying to think of what I'm going to go with. Busy Bee versus Kool Moe Dee. That battle was probably seeing it live, because hearing it on tape was unbelievable, but seeing it live would have probably been that moment. I'm gonna go with that off the top of my head. Um, I gotta think about that though. But that's a great question. That's a great question. Wow. Charles 13X says, KP, what would you do if you walked into a DJ home, and sitting right there is your BDP record bag with all your records still in it? He's referring to the epic fail that I dropped 2 weeks ago. Um, it's called Epic Fail Biz Marquee. For those that didn't see it, I was talking about getting my record bag stolen. I'm pretty sure all of you guys I saw in this live has seen that. Um, Honestly, I'm much older now. If I had seen my record bag when around the time that it happened, it would have been a problem. Now I would be very mad. Probably not in a physical sense, but I would definitely be yelling. I probably wouldn't take it to a level, but I would be. You, how did you get this? Did you steal this? You know it was mine. That would be a problem. I think it would still be a problem. Not physical, but anything below physical, yeah. Because I was tight when that happened. And if I had to find out if it was another DJ who took my record bag in 92, that would have been a big incident. Yo, Jack Swagger says, KP in a car accident, falling elevators, shootouts at the tunnel, epic escapes. You are so right, Jack Swagger. I've been very blessed by the creator to manage to dodge. I was just talking to my friend today about that. Somehow I'll be watching, like it comes on my feed on YouTube, all of these old New York City hustler stories. Y'all know the old Rich Porter outpost stories that go around, and then once you watch that, it'll lead you down the road to all kind of other dangerous individuals that were in the city. And I'll be watching all these videos, and they talk about, we used to be at this place, we used to go to this place, we all used to be at this place. And I say to myself, I was at all of them places with all of these people, and anything could have happened. I was with these people hundreds of times, and anything could have happened. I was so lucky and blessed because I hung out too much back in the 90s and the 80s, and I was blessed that nothing bad happened to me being around these individuals. Not hanging with them, but just being in the same place and time with a lot of these people, and everybody in there knowing. I knew a lot of people in the place. People knew who I was, and I was in the place with a lot of these people. It just wasn't a good look, man. And you talk about the scene with the tunnel, that incident with the tunnel, it's my epic fails, the tunnel, y'all, for those that didn't see it. After that is when I really said, you know what? Enough already. It took a long time for me to figure it out. But after that incident at the tunnel, I was done with hanging. But yeah, I've managed to, and there's more. There's more. Like I'm looking at car accident, falling elevator, shootouts. There's more. Because like I said, there was mad BDP beefs that I haven't talked about on this channel. Some of them I can't really talk about. Not say can't. I have chosen not to talk about on this channel. I'm gonna let some sleeping dogs lie. But there was certain situations that were real sticky. I've been very blessed, man. That's a great comment though. Epic escapes. I should do an epic escapes. Yeah, man. There's a lot of places I used to go to by myself. Real grimy ass clubs in New York, and I would be just going there by myself. Like, what were you thinking? Just young, wanting to be outside. Terrell McMillan, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. KP, I love Shan too, but no, he would not have won a rebattle on record after 30 years and still lost round one. Remember? Yeah, yes. Um, Shan is just, he's just talking. He has every right to say whatever he wants to say. And respect to him, he can say whatever he wants to say. And my thing is, we'll never know. He has every right to say whatever he wants to say. But I say to him and a lot of MCs, why didn't you say that then? When BDP used to come up in the Latin quarters 30 deep, KRS-One and Scott LaRock, and like the whole Bronx was with them. And they had the hottest album, one of the hottest albums, Criminal Minded. In the midst of all of that, why didn't people say something then? Why wait 30 years to get on the internet and talk about what you would have done or woulda, coulda? I hate woulda, coulda, shouldas. I really despise that, man. If you didn't say something then, don't say something now. And Shan, every so often, he'll peek his head up and he'll make a comment like he was dope, like people don't remember what happened. And I liked MC Shan. I was shocked he didn't respond. Shocked. And thinking about KRS, not as his brother, but just thinking about KRS-One and BDP as artists in 87, 88, 89. Like they say in sports, KRS would have been a tough out. I'm not saying that, dudes couldn't have took him out or whatever. There was other dope MCs at the time, but KRS would have been a tough out in them days, in a lot of days, right now. But it is what it is. E-Soul says, peace, DJ Kenny Parker. I Got Next is one of my top 3 hip-hop albums ever. Dope. That was a very important album for BDP. Jack Swagger says Just a Friend was a hidden song on that album, I think. Was it hidden? I don't know. I've had the album, I never even looked at the credits. I did look at the credits because it said, for people that did not make the album, and it has a list of people who did not make the album, and my name was on that, producers who did not make the album. I'm going to tell that story. That's going to be my next epic fails. I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to tell y'all the story of I Got Next, which is funny. I didn't know that Friend. It's not just a friend. It's called A Friend. Shout out to Showbiz on an incredible track. I did not know that that was a hidden track. All right, let me scroll down. I see people talking about Consequence, Too Much Consequence. Shout out to my man Consequence, by the way. That's the homie. I think I spoke about this on the channel. Jaron George says, hey, Kenny, I just watched the video about the accident in the snow, and you said that KRS didn't fly. Can you tell me the reason and how did he get overseas? The reason how he gets overseas is he takes a cruise. He takes the long cruise from America to Europe. So whenever you see KRS-One, which he's in Europe right now as we speak, that was a long cruise ship ride. I think I mentioned on this show before why he doesn't fly. And this is to my recollection. Chris might have a whole different story, but I remember 2 incidences that happened. For those that already heard me say it, please bear with me. But for those that didn't, back in 92, I believe, KRS-One used to do a lot of lectures. He still does a lot of lectures, but he used to do a lot of lectures in 92. I believe it was like he was on like a lecture tour flying from different colleges speaking. And he was on a plane that had crazy turbulence that was going down like crazy. Like they thought they was going to be out. And when the plane landed, Chris was really like, yo, I don't know if I really want to do this flying thing. But he gave it one more shot and he got on a plane right after that. And I remember him saying that there was how can I say it for YouTube? There was a scare. They said someone had planted something. And there was a scare. And everyone had to get off the plane because somebody might have planted something. I hope that doesn't get me flagged. And so that was the very next flight after the turbulence flight. It was a scare and everybody had to get off. After that, he was like, I'm done. And that was it. From that point on, every time we went places, we either drove or took Amtrak. Amtrak rides were wild. Bunch of us on Amtrak running through the aisles. Not me, but other people. Those are some wild times. But yeah, that's why he doesn't, that's the reason that I remember why he doesn't fly. Now, he might have another whole story, but that's the one I remember in real time. MMA says Benny Doyle in the building. Benny Doyle, what up? G Doyle, what up? GF Worrell says, I think Q-Tip and Fife arguments and Fife's health got in the way of him rhyming his best occasionally, but on his day he was untouchable, a monster. You know, I watched that the Tribe Called Quest documentary, and it really made me sad seeing them argue. And I had heard stories of arguments. I had heard the stories, but I don't know. I didn't know if they was true. I didn't travel with Tribe. I didn't know if they were true, but I had heard stories. But to see them talk about it in the documentary really made me sad as the huge fan that I am. But it's hard being in a group. A group is very difficult. That's why most groups don't last. And we talked about this on this channel. There's only been like, what, one group where none of the members went solo, where the whole group stayed together the whole time as we know it. I do believe it was De La Soul and maybe Houdini, and even Houdini, I think Grandmaster D wasn't with them for a while. But I think De La Soul and Houdini might have been like the only two rap groups ever that really stayed together. Major rap groups that had success. But yeah, Fife's health was a problem. But I used to see him all the time, man. He was just always the same. Corey Flood says Balloon Mind State is the best De La and Native Tongue album. I listened to Balloon Mind State over and over and over again like I do all. Matter of fact, there was a line, I'm not going to say the line, but there was a line on Balloon Mind State that I was curious about, and I saw Pasta Noose and I asked him to explain the line to me. That's how much of a Native Tongue fan I am. I asked Pasta to explain the line to me, please. Which he did. I'm not going to say what it was, but I thought it was about somebody and he cleared it up for me. So shout out to Pasta Noose, that's the family. Shout out to all of De La, that's the fam. Maceo is my brother. Dave, rest in peace. But yeah, I remember those Balloon Mind State times. Matter of fact, I called Maceo when Break of Dawn came out. And I congratulated him on a dope single. Break of Dawn, that was a dope record, man. Remember the B-side with the Smokey Robinson remix? The Dawn Brings Smoke, I think it's called. Just dopeness, man. Those were the days. I feel like an old man. Remember those days? April 7th artwork. Kenny, have you or your brother had any encounters with Leo Cohen or Doug Morris? Any thoughts on those two? I have no thoughts. I have never met or had any interactions with any of them. I know Doug Morris was a booking agent, so I'm pretty sure he has booked BDP. Um, I'm sure he has booked BDP at some time, but all of the bookings and things like that was not part of my. I stayed out of that lane. That was not my lane, so I stayed out of that. Leo Cohen, I've never. I don't even think I've seen Leo Cohen in person, so I have no stories about them. I've heard stories, but on this channel, I only try to speak on things that I know or I saw. So, great question, but no, I have never met them. Benny Doyle says the anyway kills me. He goes hard on the acoustics. Anyway. Soka Samuel, the Red Indian, says some people say KRS-One never had a good album after I Got Next, but they are not true fans. Otherwise, they would know Chris Styles is one of KRS' best albums. The Beatminerz gave KRS some amazing beats. Yes, they did. These opinions are all subjective. So, some people say KRS never had a dope album. You know what I mean? And you welcome all opinions. They're just, opinions. MMA says not poor, but most of the beats on Beats, Rhymes, and Life sounded too similar. They did sound similar to me. I mean, maybe that's the style that Dilla and Q-Tip was going for. I don't know. I didn't love those albums, but James Thomas Jr. says MOP and the Lox never broke up but had solo albums. Well, solo albums they didn't break up. You're right. Sometimes people step off and come back together. But Styles P has done whole projects. Of course, Jadakiss has done whole albums. Sheik Luch has done whole albums. I mean, they didn't break up, but there's a lot. They have as much or more work separate than they do as a collective. How many Lox albums are there? 3 or 4? Each one of them individually probably got 2 or 3 albums. Individually. So I'm not gonna count, I'm not gonna count the Lox. MOP, on the other hand, Mash Out Posse, even though I think Billy just dropped a solo record, right? And Fame just dropped a solo. Fame has had solo music. I don't think they broke up, but people have definitely gone their separate ways to explore other avenues. Like, De La Soul to me was always the 3 of them. Like Mace, I don't recall Mace doing a solo album or Past doing a solo album. They might have did a freestyle here and there, but anytime they did a project, it was all of them to me, De La Soul. But it's debatable. That's a good debate. Terrence Hill says, I used 2 songs from Sneak Attack on my speech class when I was in college. That's dope. I hope it's one of the ones I produced. Lindell Hardy, what's good? Let's see. Jamil says, waiting on the Mad Lion and KRS album. I think they did an album together in 2011. I produced 1 song on Mad Lion's first album, Double Trouble. The original album version, not the video version. The video version is the KRS-One produced remix. I did the original one that's on the album, Double Trouble. Shout out to Mad Lion. He'd be a cool person to get on the channel. MMA says Low End Theory marks a pivotal point in a lot of hip hoppers' lives at the time. Yes, 1991 into 92 was that. That was that era, man. A lot of memories revolve around that album. Absolutely, they do. Um, Gregory Netter says, remember back in 1990s, rappers wore hockey jerseys? I had a hockey jersey. I think I had a hockey jersey on Arsenio Hall. Was it Love's Gonna Get You? I think it was Love's Gonna Get You. When we did Love's Gonna Get You on Arsenio, I had on the New Jersey Devils hockey jersey. It was mad expensive. Um, Earl Green says, I Will Make It is so inspiring to me. That's a song off of Sneak Attack that I produced. Um, and Nas's record, I Can Make It, I think, off of his Stillmatic, I think sounds very familiar to that. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for that song with Hezekiah Walker. Brooklyn Geek, KP mad humble, but honestly, his first beat for We In There is my top 25 of all time, for real. Thank you. I feel humbled because, well, I'm a humble person. I'm just happy to be in the game. Um, but also that album, Sex and Violence, like I mention all the time on this channel, is bittersweet. Um, it was more bitter. Actually, it's not bittersweet. It's bitter. If you guys go back and check out my Sex and Violence breakdown, you will see how why I say that album is bittersweet to me, mostly bitter. Um, but We In There was a great time, and it wasn't my first beat. It was my first beat that KRS picked. And one of my first beats on the SP1200, I had been working with Heather during that time doing music, but it wasn't an SP1200. I would have ideas. I would bring them to the studio, and the engineer would kind of hook them up for me. But when I started to learn the SP is when I did We In There. So it's like one of my first SP beats and the first beat that KRS picked for me. And that was 6 months after I got the machine, which is dope. But also, I'm very fortunate because with your brother being KRS-One, you have advantages. Like I get to play beats and I got into the game way easier than it would take most people because my brother had already paved the path for me. So that's another reason why I'm so humble. I had a lot of advantages, huge advantages. I mean, I told my brother I wanted to be a DJ. He's like, here's 4 turntables. Gave me 4 Technique 1200 turntables. Here's 4 turntables, mixers, speakers. Go learn how to DJ. And oh, by the way, okay, now you can DJ for BDP. Just like that. Oh, you want to be a producer? Here's a $2,000 SP1200. Here, take it, learn it, and come back with some beats. So like my whole journey has been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to have a brother like KRS-One to help me fulfill my dreams. That was very long-winded, y'all. Sorry. Oreo says, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Really appreciate it. Says, we're in the Latin Quarter when Melly Mel challenged BDP. I saw KRS talk about it on here. If I could have been a fly on the wall, it would have definitely been that day. Yes, I talked about it on this channel. I did a whole breakdown. I was in the front row when that happened. On this channel is, what is it called? BDP versus Melly Mel, or is it KRS-One versus Melly Mel? I think it's KRS-One versus Melly Mel on this channel. I go into everything that I saw, everything that Chris told me that happened backstage, the whole thing. It was a semi-battle. It was a battle in progress that got cut off. Because people always say, well, they didn't really battle. No, they started the battle. It never finished. And for those of you that didn't see my breakdown. I'm not going to give it away, but that definitely was on that night in the Latin Quarter, and I was right there, front row. Front row. Not only was I front row, but I spoke to Chris afterwards and got more information. So please check that out. That was a wild night, though. But every night that BDP was at Latin Quarter that I was there, which was a bunch, was wild. Every time. Ilroy says, Poisonous Product is my favorite DJ Kenny Parker track. Thank you so much. Off of the Sex and Violence album. That was a dope track. I always liked that track too, as a matter of fact. I wish they had to put it out. What was it? Was it a B-side? Was that the B-side of 13 and Good? Can't remember. I'm with you right here, Lethal Flow. Makes me mad that EPMD is not mentioned enough as one of the greats. Me too. Me too. That's probably my second favorite group of all time. Not my outside of Native Tongue. I love Eric and Parrish. They don't get enough mention for their run. They don't get enough mention for the groups that they brought out. They don't get enough mention for the production. Great group. Great group. Oh, shoot. Jack Swagger said Debbie Harry says she liked what KRS-One stood for on MTV. I did not know that. What? Debbie Harry was listening to BDP? I never knew that. That's dope because they were the biggest band in the world at one point. And what made Blondie so dope is that they had #1, not a little something, #1 worldwide smashes on like 4 different genres. They had the disco #1 with Call Me. They had a rock #1. I forgot the name of the rock record. Then they had like a reggae influence #1 with The Tide is High. Then they had the rap singing #1 with Rapture. What was their rock record? One way or another, I'm gonna find you. So yeah, they were really, really a dope group. Very versatile. The Tide is High was my record. Yeah, Terrence Hill said Every Little Step. That was the song. Damn, Terrence Hill, you be helping me out so much. Every Little Step I Make. That was the record that Bobby Brown was rapping on. Let me jump down a little bit because I'm falling behind. And I said I was going to move quicker, right? Lies. GF Worrell says everyone has something to say after the event. Of course. Monday morning quarterbacks. I Am Brattle says Shan has no other stories, so he has to keep it fresh. But Shan could tell so many Juice Crew stories, and he has his own legacy. Why does it always come back to KRS and what he would have done and how he would have? You have your own story, a great story. You was Marley Marl's #1 DJ. I'm MC. You was the top guy in the Juice Crew. You was the top guy, the lead MC. Tell that story. And Knox L says Shan should just take his flowers of what he's accomplished and keep it moving. Word. He has his own accomplishments. I know the KRS thing is a stain on his legacy. I know people bring it up a lot, but I don't know, just to keep hearing over and over. But it's not just Shan. There's quite a few people to me that have a whole bunch to say that didn't say anything at the time. That's what annoys me. that really gets under my skin because we all could talk here on the internet. I could say anything I want to say on the internet. I saw Mike Tyson in a club. He had on a chain. This is true. I saw Mike Tyson in the club a couple times. He had on a nice chain. I think I could have went over there and took it. I could say that right now on the internet. Complete bullshit. If I'd have walked up on Mike Tyson, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. But I could say it now what I would have done. If I had got close enough to him, yeah, okay. Word. CMC's Technique says, salute KP. In a recent interview, KRS says that Illmatic was better than the majority BDP KRS albums, track for track wise. You agree? Illmatic is a top 10 all-time album. Like all time in rap. And in some ways, it's one of the greatest albums ever made in any musical genre. But in rap, that's a top 10 album. I think KRS-One has a top 10 album in Criminal Minded. He's had other great albums, but like at the top, even though I loved By All Means Necessary, that's probably my favorite BDP album. But you would have to say, based on where you rank these albums, yeah, Illmatic is probably better than most of KRS-One's albums. If you're looking at the top albums of all time, yeah, Illmatic is probably better than just about everybody's album. I don't think it's the greatest album of all time, but oops, I hit the thing. I don't think it's the greatest album of all time, but you can definitely argue. You can definitely make an argument. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Yeah, I didn't know Chris said that though. I didn't know. Spook Realm 4Q said this. KRS says, this is a quote from a KRS-One song. It says, KRS-One, in my face, you're happy. On vinyl, you're mad at me. That's exactly how BDP, my experience being around KRS, how it's gone. Just like that. In my face, you're happy, and then behind my back, you're mad. And my thing is, if you're mad at KRS, even if you're not gonna say nothing, you don't wanna, maybe you're not to the point where you want a conflict or something, but you just don't like them, that's cool. You don't gotta like people. Don't speak to them. My thing is, a lot of people, when you see them, they be all over him, and then later on, they be this. I hate that. Urgh. You don't like somebody, you don't like them. Keep it real all the time, man. If you like somebody, you like them all the time. Whenever I see you, I like you. That's my dude. And if I don't like you, I don't like you. And if I'm not going to diss, I don't have nothing good to say, I'm not going to say nothing at all. Oh, this is interesting. Why did KRS and LL never battle? There was a few times I thought it might happen around the time of the Hill Project. Me too. But I just think that's just two guys just talking. They actually, well, up until last year, they were actually good friends. So a lot of times this is, just talking shit like two basketball players would talk shit. But I never thought there was nothing there really between KRS and LL. In all my time, I never thought there was anything really there. I just thought it was just talking shit. And I'm a big LL Cool J fan. He's in my top 5 all time. Top 5.5. But last year, when he was doing his, I forgot what they called it, when he was on with his DJ Z-Trip, I think, and Greg Nice, and they were going over all the samples. We talked about it on this channel, and they played Step Into a World, and LL got completely silent and was visibly upset when they were playing a KRS-One record. And I think something happened last year, I don't know what, but something happened last year that I think hurt their friendship or even cordial relationship. I don't know what it is, I've always been cool with LL. He's always been nothing but super cool to me. Um, if I saw LL Cool J right now, I'd give him a pound and ask him what's good, what's really good. Um, but there's definitely some friction there now. All the stuff in the past, I thought maybe it was something. It wasn't really nothing to me. Now Chris might have something else to say. Like I said, I don't want to speak for Chris, um, but this is just my observation being around him. Patrick White says, I used to like Shan. I helped pioneer this, was decent. That was dope. How could I fall off? How could I fall off? Boy, I helped pioneer this. That was dope to me. Down by Law was dope to me. He has a legacy, man. Why talk about what you would have done? Talk about what you did. Um, Tone 20 says, Kenny, do you know T La Rock? Yes, that's the homie. I had a chance to kick it with T La Rock a few years ago. We had a long conversation. Super dope brother. Yes, I do know T La Rock. I mean, we're cool. John Walker says they go on these basement podcasts to talk mad ish, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I just, and it's not just BDP. It's all in rap. It's all kind of music. People, you have to look at stuff, and you ever see what people talk about what they would have done on there. I mean, we're like, well, you was there. You was there. You should have did what you was gonna do then. Or say, I did not do this because, and let's hear your reasons why, or, this and that. Some people was just like, I wanted to take it there, I just didn't because why? That's always going to be my comment. Because why? Controversial, what up? Um, Patrick Wise says, Kenny, when was the last time you dunked? I would say early 2000s, maybe like 99, 2000, something like that. Tone 210 says, Kenny, do you know Marvin Cease? No, not off the top of my head, no. Sticky Label says probably the inception of hip hop. The first moment it realized it a thing that would be the fly on the wall moment. Yeah, the problem is we don't know when that moment was because none of the elders could get it together to tell us when exactly this was. Plus, you know why I wouldn't pick that? I mean, that's your pick. That's a dope pick. The reason I wouldn't pick that is because hip hop then is not hip hop as we know it. I would like to see the moment when hip hop was hip hop as we know it today. Not today, but when all of the elements really came together. Um, that would have been interesting. Muck Muck says, I wish I was there for the KRS versus Melly Mel mini battle. Yeah, yeah. It was a dope moment. Melly Mel definitely wanted smoke. We are at an hour and 19. For those that's just checking in, this is the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Big up to the Rewind crew who's going to check this out later on. And please hit the like button if you get a chance. It helps the algorithm. We're just rolling down. Let me scroll down a little bit because, of course, I'm behind. Let's see. Trying to see a question. Triggs, what up? You know, this is interesting. Rawson King. We need to hear more about your epic wins. Um, yeah, you know, I just try to pick what I think is funny and offbeat that people would find interesting. You know, I don't know if I like want to come on here and brag, if there's anything to even brag about, but I don't want to be like braggadocious, like, you know, oh, I did this or that. I just like the reason why I call them epic fails so far is the things that went wrong. Things that started out like this, but something went wrong, and usually I find it funny. I like telling you know telling stuff that I think is funny and interesting. I've had bunches of epic wins. My whole career has been an epic win. Like I said, so many things kind of just fell into place for me. Um, from the day I just got down with BDP, it just was a roller coaster ride. I've had tons of epic wins. I mean, we could talk about them. I don't know what if it's funny, like if it's funny or interesting. You know what I mean? Like if I think it's something interesting. Um, yeah. Terrence Hill says the Puff Daddy remix to Step Into a World was the hidden song. Yeah, because that was not on the album originally, if I recall. Brooklyn Geek, nah, I'll go on record. No one was taking Chris out in the mid 80s. His entire style and variety of styles alone were miles ahead of everyone else. Chris in 86, 87 was an alien. I kind of agree with that. I mean, there were a couple people that was there with him, but 86, 87, 88 KRS was a real beast, man. Was a real beast. That's why when people talk about what they would have done, I'm like, I don't know, man. Um, like I said, Chris would have been a tough out. Um, Corey Flood says KRS owns his cruise ship to travel. That would be dope. No, that is not true. But you know how much owning a cruise ship, owning a yacht, a small yacht is probably like 500,000, right? That would be crazy to own something like that. You couldn't even own a cruise ship. I mean, you can own a cruise ship as a business. Um, let's see. Rawson King says, at some point, tell us the story behind G. Simone's music for the 90s. Excellent production. Actually, Kid Capri produced that record, and I should have brought it up when he was here. Kid Capri was on the channel like 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. I should have brought that up when he was here. I had nothing to do with that. I was not in the studio or anything when that song was recorded, but um, that's G. Simone is KRS-One's wife. That would have been a good Kid Capri story. He started to go into it. Check out my Kid Capri interview. He started to go into it. I probably could have gotten more in depth more with him, but there was so much I wanted to talk to him about. Um, my Ingo Wolf, what up? Boise, Idaho. Damn, you out there. Um, Brand Yakubian says the Tribe documentary was super depressing. It kind of was, man. Um, it kind of was. It's probably not even a It's probably not even a what was I gonna say? Odd or abnormal as far as groups go. But just to see it put there on the screen was tough to watch for me. John Wall says Beastie Boys always stay together. They did, right? Well, they had a different DJ. I don't know if DJ Hurricane stayed with them. Is he considered part of the Beastie Boys or was just the DJ? If so, yes, the Beastie Boys stayed together until one of them passed. Yes, I will put the Beastie Boys in that category of groups that stay together. Absolutely, I would. Good call. All right. We're approaching an hour and a half. I'm going to scroll down. I just jumped 50 comments. And see. Um, Def Rocker said, didn't Tila Rock get hit in the head with her bat and suffered a brain injury years ago? No, I did not know that. Delano Layman says, Peace, Kenny. What happened to the original DMX? I actually saw him 2 summers ago, and he hooked me up with Just Ice. For those that didn't see, Just Ice was my second guest on this show. I do believe Heather B was first and Just Ice was second. And the reason I got in touch with Just Ice was because I ran into DMX. The original DMX was the beatbox for Just Ice. If you go back and listen to LaToya, and if you listen to Yes, But You Are the Hip Hop Gangster, which is probably my favorite Just Ice record, DMX, the beatbox was his beatbox. I ran into him and we exchanged numbers, and he gave my number to Just Ice, who called me, and that's how Just Ice got on the show, because of the original DMX. I saw him about 2 years ago. He looked good. He was doing well. Yeah, shout out to him. Brand Yakubian, interesting that you would say this. Oh man. Oh man. Aunt Knox L says LL didn't want no parts of KRS-One. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, LL has never shied away from a battle that I know of. If he wanted to go at KRS, he probably could have. I don't think KRS ever directly said anything about LL on a record, and Chris is very direct. Like, if he wants to say something, you'll know. He chose not to, so I don't think it was any, I don't know if there was anything really there. I'm sure there was a little, there was a little, but nothing really major. But now, I would say, after watching that video of LL and the way he reacted to that KRS-One song being played, there has to be something to that. Soka says, Criminal Minded, by all means, Edutainment, Return of the Boom Bap are all better than Illmatic. That's dope opinion. I mean, that's what I say. Everyone has an opinion. Could be. Ronan Ali, what up? Says KRS and Joe did the song Stop Frontin' on the album Keep Right. That's the song. That song was originally done years earlier for what would have been on I Got Next. So I Got Next came out in 97. Keep Right was probably, I don't know when that came out, 05 or something. So we look at like 7, 8 years. Chris dug that out and threw that on there. That's the song. Good one, Ronan. What up, brother? Let me do this, and then we're gonna jump off. JT, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. Says KP, I was wondering if music is still a full-time job or if you use psychology degree in the corporate world. Feel free to not disclose, though. I will disclose. Music is a full-time job. It's the only thing I've ever done in my adult life. For those that don't know, I have a degree in psychology from St. Peter's University. Shout out to the Peacocks. Um, but as soon as I graduated from college, I immediately entered the world of music. If you guys don't have the book, please pick up the book. It's all in there. The link is in the description below. To answer your question, music has been my full-time job. I've never used my psychology degree in any professional capacity. That's a great question, though. My degree is actually right over there. Maybe one day, to me, that's an epic win that we were talking about. That's an epic win that a person like me coming from where I came from, graduated from college. That's an epic win. That I would talk about. Maybe another time. We're on here an hour and a half. I'm going to jump off. But that's something I would love to talk about. Some people say that college is a waste of time or whatever. I don't think so. It depends. It depends on who you are. JT says KP's blood pressure rising over the Shan stuff. Yes, it is. And it's not just Shan, but Shan is like a catalyst. It does. It boils my blood to hear people talk about what they would have done. Years later, not just like a year later, decades later. And it's not just Shan. And that really, really gets under my skin. Especially since I see these people and I know what it is. But, that's the nature of life. All right, y'all, we're at an hour and a half. I'm going to jump off. Once again, this is the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I am working on some guests coming on the show. And I might have some surprises coming up. And big up to the Rewind crew. I might jump on again this week. I kind of had fun last Friday night jumping on. If I'm not doing anything, I might jump on. I may or may not. Don't hold me to that, but I might do it if any of you guys want to hang out. All right, I'm going to jump off. You guys have a wonderful week. God bless you all, and I'll catch you next week. Peace.